The man shrugged. "What is newsworthy here?" "I understand a collapse occurred in a local gravel pit," Charles suggested. "A man died." "Oh, him." The barman lifted the hem of his apron to his nose and rubbed. "Likely he caused it himself with shoddy work. Drunk all the bloody time." Charles took the vessel. The hot metal instantly warmed his fingers, which began to tingle, not unpleasantly. "In truth, I've been summoned to Arga Academy. Any news of it?" The barman's lip curled under his whiskers. They covered his face in a luxurious black fur, while what hair was left on the top of his head stuck out in sparse quills. "He's an hard fact, man, that schoolmaster. You never see a boy from there lurking about in a happy manner, not like the Harrow lads." Charles attempted to translate what the man was saying. "A hard fact, man? You mean Mr. Arga has become a disciple of utilitarianism?" The barman sniffed. Two travellers close to the fire called for bowls of stew. "I mean Fagin Sykes, his partner. Whatever he is, the boys don't like it." "Mr. Arga has brought in a new partner." Charles frowned and downed his cooling glass of restorative as the man moved down the bar to his other customers. An application of hard facts might be what was needed for education, but it left little room for whimsy, and what was a boy but a whimsical creature? What would his own, often pain-filled childhood have been without his father's books and his sister Fanny's songs? Charles had never had a reason to dislike Mr. Arga. It seemed pleasant and reasonable, like his son. Why had he chosen such a different sort of partner? Why take on a partner at all? Charles ought to have made more of an effort to keep in contact with the boys they sponsored. Little Ollie, though maimed by a terrible accident, probably had learned to write by now. Cousin Arthur could still be too young, but poor John, they had decided, likely had obtained 12 years, and might have learned quickly, given the benefits of a regular diet and a bed that didn't consist of a ragged blanket under Blackfriars Bridge. However, as a result of Charles's work for the newspapers, his first book, and his upcoming marriage to Mr. Hogarth's daughter Kate, he hadn't visited the school since the start of the year. One thing he suspected, though: his young ex-mudlark friends, who were at the school on charity, wouldn't handle an authoritarian regime well. They were used to following only the tides, and the dictates of the mudlark gang's leader. "Oh, aye," the barman said, returning. "Mr. Sykes is his finger in a few pies hereabouts. He's on the board of the workhouse, for one thing." "A local man?" Charles sniffed as 2 bowls of stew passed by his nose, but it didn't smell fresh. Rather, the scent of burnt potato wafted into the air, a top note that did not entice. He'd likely much prefer the contents of the men's Toby jugs, for the rum had been more than passable. Tea at a school might not be any nicer, but he suspected the masters would eat better than the students. Even bread and butter might be better than the stew. Harrow-on-the-Hill was a rather small enclave, and he didn't know what he might find to eat on the street, but that was another possibility. He rose from the stool, the muscles of his legs complaining of their hours of crab-like bending in the coach, and picked up his bag. "Yes, grandson of the local squire, a local fixture," the barman said. "No stew?" asked a friendly maidservant as Charles handed his coins to the barman. "I'm more in the mood for a pie," Charles explained. The gap-toothed girl worried at her lip. "Stephen had to close his bait shop for a couple of weeks to tend his parents at their farm. His father broke his leg." Charles sighed. No wonder he preferred London. One person would be too insignificant in a large city to damage the workings of everyone's stomachs. "Very well, off to Arga Academy, then. I shouldn't wait for my friend any longer if something is wrong. Heard anything about the state of their kitchen?" The maid shook her head. "You never see their boys here. They're too busy having facts forced into their heads." Charles walked south past an assortment of businesses on the rather horizontally challenging High Street. For once he didn't have a young charity student to shepherd along and reassure, so he could assess the town for himself. It had a prosperous air. 2 more inns appeared. The area had a great deal of traffic for such a small place, perhaps due to the schools. He admired the yellow brick front of a chandler shop with living space above. Sweet beeswax wafted from an open window. Many buildings were constructed from red brick in a familiar Tudor style. He passed a chapel, a library, and various houses.